all the media we consume, adult entertainment is probably the most controversial. The adult entertainment industry can be extremely dangerous, with female sex workers murdered at a rate 18 times higher than the average for their race and age in the United States. While this statistic includes prostitution as well as adult film performers, the reality is that violent discrimination is a lethal threat to those in the industry. Join us in today's episode as we explore 3 chilling adult film star murders. Natal King. In March 2004, a 46-year-old photographer from Eagleville, Pennsylvania was charged with the fatal stabbing of 23-year-old pornographic actress and model, Natal King, who used the stage name Taylor Summers. Anthony Joseph Frederick was charged with murder, abuse of a corpse, and possession of a knife, though he would go on to tell reporters as he was moved from the courthouse that he was innocent. According to DA Bruce Castor, Frederick was also charged with lying to investigators about Natal's death. Natal, a Canadian national, had been missing for over 3 weeks before her body was discovered in what is described as a rocky and heavily wooded area near the Schuylkill River in Philadelphia. Her remains showed that she'd suffered excessive violence, multiple stab wounds to her chest, neck, and hands. Her corpse had been wrapped up in a backdrop, similar to those used by photographers. Bruce Castor told the media, "Obviously, she put up a fight against her attacker. I believe, and investigators believe, that she met her death at the hands of Anthony Frederick as part of a sexual bondage fantasy." Though many headlines claim that the crime involved bondage, it appears that the cause of the dispute between Frederick and Natal was that he was unable to pay her the $900 she was owed for participating in his shoot. Shortly after Frederick's arrest, 29-year-old Jennifer Mitkus was also arrested and charged with lying to authorities and hindering apprehension. Investigators noted their belief that she was involved in helping to cover up the crime as Frederick's assistant. Frederick told the detectives that he took 20 photos of Natal on February 29, 2004, and that he paid her what she was owed. She was subsequently never heard from again. But Natal's roommate recalled that the 23-year-old had phoned her to say that she was weirded out by the photographer and that she would call back to check in a few hours. That phone call never came. Natal's vehicle was found on March 5, close to the photography studio. Her suitcase and computer were still inside. A later search of Frederick's residence turned up duct tape, shackles, blood-stained equipment, and a handwritten poem that read, "Cut with a knife. Blood does flow. You may bleed out. Death coming on slow." It wasn't until July 2005 that Frederick came clean to investigators. In Montgomery County, Philadelphia, the 47-year-old was sentenced to 24 to 51 years behind bars for the fatal stabbing of Natal, which had taken place in his photography studio. Following a bondage-themed shoot, Frederick admitted that he had been unable to pay the 23-year-old and an argument had broken out. He subsequently stabbed her to death. Frederick reportedly apologized to the family in court. He also pleaded with the judge for a lesser sentence, claiming that he'd never have stabbed Natal if she hadn't attacked him with a hunting knife. According to his confession, Frederick wrestled the knife away from the 23-year-old and used it to stab her. He then wrapped up her body and dumped it in White Marsh Township. It was found a few weeks later in a muddy ravine. The presiding judge, William Nichols, did not believe Frederick's version of events, however, noting that Natal was found gagged with a red ball in her mouth attached to a leather strap that was fixed around her head. He wondered how they had argued when the 23-year-old had been stifled with a mouthpiece. Frederick pled guilty to a lesser sentence of third-degree murder and abuse of a corpse in exchange for helping investigators also convict his assistant, Mitkus. If the case had gone to trial, DA Bruce Castor stated, then he'd likely have received a life term for first-degree murder. He told the media, "I think that was just an atrocious result," and loaded into the car. She had also cleaned blood from the floor of the photography studio. She ultimately pled guilty to abuse of a corpse, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, and several other charges. She was sentenced to 6 to 23 months in prison, on top of the 6 months she'd already served, and would additionally serve 4 years probation and pay a $500 fine. Natal's father, Daniel King, told reporters, "Justice was served in the court, but not for us. It won't bring Natal back." The 23-year-old had been working in the porn industry to help pay for university. Her father told the court that she wanted to have a career in psychology and dreamed of one day becoming a mother. William Arnold Newton. William Arnold Newton was just 25 when he vanished from LA in October 1990. A licensed beautician, William had begun working in the porn industry using the stage name Billy London in the mid-1980s to help supplement his income. His friends noted that he saw himself as a poet and an artist who only participated in porn for economic reasons. In the autumn of 1990, he planned to leave LA and moved to Las Vegas. But before he could, his life was brutally taken from him. William was last seen alive at Rage nightclub in West Hollywood on October 28, having recently wrapped up the filming of his latest and final film. The 25-year-old never returned home that night. The following morning, parts of his dismembered body were discovered in a dumpster near Santa Monica Boulevard. His head and feet were recovered inside plastic bags. At the time of the slaying, investigators told the media that they had a few leads, but were unable to reveal anything yet. However, it seems that those leads never went anywhere as the case lay dormant for 32 years. In 2005, Detective Wendy Byrne announced that she was reinvestigating the case. She hoped that the advances in technology might help shed light on the killer. The reopening of the case gathered much media attention, but failed to find answers. By December 2006, William's father told reporters that the LAPD had let him know the investigation was once again on the back burner. His father later passed away in 2011. In 2020, two podcasters covered William's case and established an email address that could be used for tips. They later stated that they'd received a potential eyewitness account from somebody claiming to have seen the 25-year-old in the company of a man resembling Jeffrey Dahmer. Infamous killer Dahmer was known for targeting young men and dismembering them after death. He was apprehended in 1991. Still, the case remained unsolved. It wasn't until 2023 that investigators connected the crime to a former self-proclaimed white supremacist and skinhead named Daryl Lynn Madden, who now identifies as a Jewish woman named Daryl Lynn Madden. This connection was initially made by an amateur sleuth named Clark Williams, who discovered the existence of a porn star in the 1980s named Billy Houston while attempting to track down a gay porn producer who worked in the industry at the time, in case he had any information on Williams' death. It was soon discovered that Billy Houston was Daryl Madden and that she was currently in prison after pleading guilty to the 2008 kidnapping and murder of Stephen Doma and her accomplice in the crime, Bradley Qualls. She told investigators that she and Qualls had been looking to kill a gay man as part of their initiation into the Chaos Squad Skinheads gang. They lured Stephen Dahmer into an alleyway before beating him with a coat hanger and strangling him. She added that she killed Qualls afterwards and subsequently fled the scene. As amateur sleuth Clark Williams dug further, he discovered that Madden had been interviewed for a true crime book. In the interview, she had alluded to murdering somebody in LA. Clark subsequently passed all the information he had to law enforcement, who took over the case and went to interview Madden. She confessed that she and her skinhead friends had targeted William Newton to rob him and that she'd calmly put an arm around his shoulder and told him they would probably beat the crap out of him. William went with them without making a scene, but Madden stated that she'd ultimately strangle the 25-year-old to death. She said she couldn't remember where they'd taken him, but denied having anything to do with the dismemberment. Though she knew who had carried out this part of the attack, she declined to reveal any names, stating, "I'm not a snitch." Though the case is now closed, charges have not been laid against Daryl and Madden, with the DA's office citing a lack of evidence beyond the confession. They have noted that too many unanswered questions remain, and that prosecutors would struggle to prove Madden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt after 30 years. Notably, Madden will spend the rest of her life in prison, even if she is never convicted of Williams' murder. Carol Maltesi. In a hotel room in Milan in 2020, 41-year-old David Fontana met 24-year-old Carol Maltesi for the first time. Fontana was a banker, food blogger, and photography enthusiast, and had been hired by Carol to take some risque photos of her for her online business. She was an OnlyFans creator who sold provocative photographs and pornographic films through her platform, working under the name Charlotte Angie. At the time of their meeting, Fontana was already married, but in the months following their photo shoot, he left his wife and began dating Carol in what he later described as an open relationship. Then in January 2022, while they were supposed to be filming for Carol's OnlyFans, Fontana took the 26-year-old's life. He struck her 13 times in the head using a hammer before slitting her throat with a knife. Following the murder, Fontana dismembered Carol's remains. He initially attempted to burn them, but later purchased a chest freezer in which he stored the remains. According to Fontana's neighbors, he was completely normal in the weeks following the murder, which went undiscovered for several months. Carol was not reported missing until March, when she failed to turn up at a lap dancing club. As for weeks, Fontana had been imitating the 26-year-old by paying her rent, responding to text messages, and posting on social media. When he discovered that the police had started looking for Carol, Fontana realized he needed to get rid of the body, so he stuffed the remains into black plastic bags and drove out to the countryside in Carol's Fiat 500, where he tossed the packages off a remote mountain road. Despite Fontana's attempts to cover up his crime, however, a passerby discovered one of Carol's hands in late March. The body could not be identified immediately, though, because her face had been burned. Fortunately, Carol had handfuls of noticeable tattoos. The police released the descriptions of 11 of them, including inverted V tattoos on her inner thighs, the word wanderlust on her upper body, and the partially legible word elegance down her back. Shortly afterwards, a journalist received a tip about the identity of the body and began looking into Carol's life and background. He attempted to contact the 26-year-old through WhatsApp and immediately received a reply which read, "A number of people have told me about that girl. Fortunately, I am fine." The journalist, though, remained suspicious of the interaction and theorized that Carol's killer was operating her online accounts and using her phone to respond to messages. He eventually took what he knew to Italy's paramilitary police. Once the body was identified, Fontana came forward to claim he knew the victim, but denied being involved in her death and disappearance. Investigators at the time remained wary of the 43-year-old, however, and subsequently began tracking his movements between January and March, and also searched his home. Inside, they found the chest freezer, the same black garbage bags that had been used to wrap the remains, and DNA evidence, all of which incriminated him. Fontana soon changed his story. He claimed that he had accidentally killed his partner during consensual sex and that he'd dismember her and hid the remains afterwards. He was subsequently charged with aggravated first-degree homicide, dismemberment, and concealing a corpse. In the summer of 2023, the true nature of the crime came to light when it was revealed that the relationship between the couple had soured when Carol told Fontana that she wanted to end the relationship to move to Verona to be reunited with her 6-year-old son. Bizarrely, despite the horrifically violent actions carried out by Fontana, the calculated way with which he pretended she was still alive, and the fact that he initially lied to investigators about her death, 43-year-old avoided a life sentence which the prosecution had been seeking. The court convicted Fontana of murder but ruled that it was not premeditated and did not involve excessive cruelty. Furthermore, disturbingly, the judges described Carol as young and uninhibited, and adding that her killer had felt used by her. Explaining their decision further, the judges wrote that Fontana had felt a growing sense of frustration knowing that she had used him, and that had been driven to take her life by, quote, the realization that he had lost the woman he loved. The ruling in this case is understandably seen as highly controversial. Carol's relatives, her family's lawyer, and women in government positions have all expressed their outrage at the statements written by the judges, as well as the sentencing itself. The senior judge in the case, Giuseppe Fazio, claimed he'd have given the same sentence even if she'd been a nun, adding, quote, "If people don't understand the motivation behind the sentence, then that's certainly not my problem." For this brutal and twisted crime, Fontana was given 30 years in prison. And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment down below with your own thoughts and reactions, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.